afternoon, distinguished speakers. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your support and welcome you all to this session today on enhancing the OTT experience and emerging technologies. This session is part of the 20th Convergence India Expo, and the organizers are the India Trade Promotion Organization and Exhibitions India. Our speakers today are Mr. Hans Massart, Head in Media and Broadcast, ST Engineering, iDirect. Then we have Mr. Aloke Majumdar, Technology Head, Hoichoi. Mr. Bharat Mohan, CEO, SensaraTV, and then Mr. Peritosh Prajapati, Group CEO, GX Group, and Mr. Damien Sterkers, Product Manager, Broadpeak, and Mr. Amey Sukhthanker, Head in Sales Alliances with Sterlite Power Transmissions. And the moderator for today is Mr. Uday Sodhi, who's a Senior Partner at Kurate Digital Consulting. Over to you, sir.
Hi, welcome to this gathering. It's great to be here. It's great to be talking to all of you. The OTT ecosystem is probably one of the fastest growing ecosystems in the country today. We've seen huge traction over the last 4 or 5 years, and a lot has got to do with the opening up of 4G and the impact that Jio has had on the overall economy of the overall digital economy and the consumption that's happened after the opening up of Jio. So I think there's been a significant movement. We now have about 300 million users, 350 million users who are active on digital video. That number is expected to go to 600 million. This is expected to be a $5 billion economy. The entire OTT economy is supposed to be about a $5 million economy in 3 to 5 years. And some very, very good prominent players are actively looking at growing this entire ecosystem. In terms of growth, this is probably one of the fastest growing ecosystems today. We have about 28-30% growth rate for the OTT economy today, we are seeing significant movement in terms of ad spends, advertising spends, monetization, subscription businesses, and the impact that it's having on technology and what technology can do to enhance the consumer experience is becoming interesting. And we have a great group of people here who will share their learnings, who will share what all they're doing to create these great consumer experiences. And we'd love to hear from them. I'm sure you don't want to listen to me, you want to listen to them. So I'm going to now move over to Hans and say, Hans, would you like to now start your presentation, after which we will get into the overall discussion with the rest of the panelists. Thank you.
So hi everybody, thanks for joining us today. My name is Hans Massart. I am with ST Engineering iDirect, probably known more from the brands of Newtek and iDirect in our industry. And I'm heading the vertical of media and broadcast at our company. More and more video is cross vertical, cross application. So I also take a look on all of the video that we handle in all of our different branches. The presentation that I will give is fairly short. It's a quick overview on why we believe satellite is a good distribution solution for OTT content as part of a hybrid delivery network or as a standalone network, but it's definitely not satellite versus terrestrial. It's promotion or handling a hybrid distribution network. But before I go there, I'll quickly talk about what is a Vsat system, because it is important for the remainder of the presentation, and some of you may not be familiar with that terminology. Basically, Vsat stands for a very small aperture terminal. Basically, a Vsat system sets up a bidirectional IP pipe over satellite between a central location, which we call the hub, and the remote points of presence, which we also call terminals. The satellite industry makes use of Vsat systems to cover a wide variety of markets and applications, so not just media and entertainment, but also we have there's an important market for internet over satellite, for consumer access, but also enterprise connectivity, cellular backhaul, IP trunking, different mobility solutions, so that's connectivity for aircraft, ships, and land mobile. There are also government and defense applications. Very important today is distance learning in these COVID times. And as I said, media and entertainment, both for contribution and distribution purposes. I'll talk a bit now about the delivery chain topology, and that also explains where we are part of this total ecosystem. So from a helicopter point of view, what I would call a traditional OTT video delivery chain can be presented in the below graph. So live or file-based content is ingested, encoded, or transcoded, and then passed on to origin. The content needs to be packaged for HTTP streaming and then encrypted, and a CDN streamer distributes the content in a unicast format, if internet is used, for instance, over a terrestrial backbone towards the edge, where remote points of presence take care of the communication with the smart devices. So adaptive bitrate streaming allows for an increased quality of experience, as depending on the capabilities of the device, but also the available bandwidth in the last mile and the quality of the network, more or less video information chunks can be transmitted by the remote POP. In order to expand the footprint, and here you can see already a first edition of where satellite can be useful, you can expand the footprint, or you can offload congested terrestrial backbones, or to increase network resilience, to mitigate disasters. So you can add satellite distribution in this way. This case here shown as unidirectional. In order to make the satellite transmission efficient, a very important component here is to convert all of the unicast content first to multicast, as that makes efficient satellite transmission possible. And that is possible for live content, but also for file-based content. Anything that you can multicast, in this case the file-based content, will be multicasted and pre-positioned at the edge caches, at the remote POPs, and that is possible for popular series or based on a specific customer intelligence that you get via a return channel, so that you can be smart in putting the right content at the edge before the customer wants to actually consume that. And then this remote point of presence, that could be a consumer device. It could also be a more professional infrastructure that takes care of converting all the multicast back to unicast, communicate with the smart devices. Now, a return path is key for the success of the operation, because it handles the CDN analytics, it supports the digital rights management, and it allows to send content requests from the remote to the origin. In case a return path is not available over a terrestrial network, then this can be provided over the IP satellite link, as explained in the Vsat network, setting up a bidirectional IP pipe satellite. And of course, all of the distribution and the return traffic can be fully handled by a satellite platform only when this makes sense. And there are several cases where this makes sense. In case the remote POP cannot be economically feasible with terrestrial communication, or at least not enough bandwidth, or in case of receivers such as ships or aircraft. So whatever the video delivery topology chain in the end is, it's the key to feed the edge CDN servers, and they are closed as close as possible, or as close as necessary, to the point of consumption to improve the quality of experience of the consumer. So where do we play a role in this ecosystem? As the engineering iDirect, we typically offer the equipment that we are known for, as shown here in the angles, but we also act in some cases as prime contractor, expanding a bit the scope, delivering a complete ecosystem, which improves the setup, the success of the platform as a total. Obviously, we also work here with partners that deliver them part of the system. I have here then finally also a couple of references. This is one reference from our partner Isotropic Networks. They provide a service for Netflix, Disney Plus, and the likes over satellite. So the quality of experience here, even though satellite transmission is the communication you have, is the same as if you would like to access this content over a terrestrial network. And that is by smart pre-positioning of the Netflix content or the other content or the file-based content, because this is SVOD, at the remote box. Obviously, subscriber management and content protection is very important. Netflix is stating this all the time, of course, and we can cater for that via the bidirectional pipe, via the return path. So this is a live network today with several thousands of users already. A second use case, very important today, with the same solution set, this can be covered, is distance learning. In these COVID times, it's hard to reach all the school children, and therefore, aside of live lessons, what we do here is we can also pre-position extra content, homework or other kind of files or classes to take offline, so that children can view lessons which are either live and then on a television screen, but also can access content with a tablet via Wi-Fi, with a set-top box that has some storage to handle all of this extra file-based content. And then, of course, the satellite operator. Today, that format may be very traditional, an MPEG export stream, but also here there is an opportunity to start already today with adding OTT content to that same format, so that you do not exchange all of the set-top boxes that you have in the field, but rather have a set-top box in addition that then is capable of processing this OTT content, either just live or also. So in general, we believe that an OTT and satellite are a good match when we are using multicast AV. So adaptive bitrate streamed content, which is then put in multicast to be transported over the backbone. It provides a solution that is easily scalable. It is also an additional layer of resiliency, and it is flexible. A return path is critical to enable a high quality of experience, and we can provide that over satellite in case it's not possible to do this with terrestrial means. And then very important is the integrated ecosystem, as I've shown. So solutions from different vendors must be compatible for a successful rollout. The use cases that we have, that I have addressed here, are real. They are in operation today. So this is business. It's not nice ideas that are presented here. And whatever the application is, most IP traffic today is already video. So the solution that I have addressed here is not just for media and entertainment, but it can be applied for all applications whereby video is an important. This completes my presentation. Back to you, Uday.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you so much. This was very nice. Maybe you want to switch off the video. Yeah, thank you so much. I'd like to now, start the conversation with the other panelists. I would like each panelist to probably share a bit of a background about their company and how their company is part of the overall OTT ecosystem and how they're helping OTT platforms manage this huge growth and consumer experience. We also have a partner from the OTT platform, Hoichoi. So I'd like Bharat to probably talk about what challenges they face and how they're using technology at different level and introduce themselves. So I'd like to now open this up to a larger discussion. Maybe we can start with Amey, if you can, share what your company does and how you're part of the OTT ecosystem.
Sure. Thanks, Uday. Pleasure to be on this distinguished panel, and good afternoon to all my fellow panelists. So essentially, Sterlite Power is a large global power transmission developer, and in leverage power which can be used and leveraged by large OTT players we're working, and as we speak, we're working with large OTT companies in terms of setting up a robust connectivity, connecting key cities in India, like let's say Mumbai, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai. So we believe that there is a huge opportunity in terms of creating a superior low latency, fault tolerant network, high availability network, which is the need of the hour in India. Because India, as you know, the traditional fiber infrastructure has a lot of issues in terms of reliability. So we exist to solve the toughest challenges of data delivery, and it's a very purpose-driven organization. And we take pride in enabling large OTT players today in terms of solving their needs for robust and reliable connectivity, both within the city and connecting cities. So that's where we are, and also we're leveraging our reach in terms of substations, in terms of our transmission towers, in terms of creating edge data centers. Because today, as you know, in the post-pandemic world, there's a huge uptick of e-commerce, e-commerce and other applications, and the major demand has come from tier 2, tier 3 cities. So we believe that there's a need for getting the content closer to consumers. So here is where we are solving the need from content delivery networks, OTT companies, in terms of hosting their infrastructure in tier 2, tier 3 cities, like let's say Surat or Ludhiana or Coimbatore. So to kind of enable them to in terms of giving good experience to the end consumers. So essentially, we have seen a huge exponential growth in the last 2-3 years in terms of these two critical components of digital infrastructure. One is the fiber and edge data centers, and we believe that within the next couple of years we will have a huge offtake of this infrastructure, and to sustain and to make this more scalable, we will have our solutions, and we will continue to work with the entire OTT ecosystem to make our solutions affordable and feasible in the market.
Thanks, Amey. Thank you so much. We already heard Hans. Can we move to Paritosh now?
Hi, thank you, Uday. Yes, my name is Peritosh Prajapati. I'm the CEO of GX Group. We are a company who's building up the backbone of the OTT platform. As Amey also mentioned, they're doing the fiber infrastructure. We are doing the fiber products itself, the technology products. We have been working in Europe for the last 20 years, so we have seen the evolution from providing broadband connectivity and to moving into OTT platform growth based on having a stable connectivity behind it. That's what we are seeing in India now. We see the affordable data has enabled the market to make it possible to ensure that OTT platforms are runnable. People have possibility to adapt to the new technology, which is now that you have OTT platform on content-based services. We see also a number of cable subscription going down. We see OTT platform, as also mentioned by Uday, the 20-30% rise this year. We have seen last year in Europe also, we have approximately 60% of connections on OTT platform, which is a huge change now in the market. And where we as a technology player play a major role, we need to ensure the connectivity, the speed is stable, the quality of service is there, the quality of entertainment need to be maintained. So there are a lot of parameters to set in, the products needs to be matched and meet the demand. We see also a huge demand coming up in rural areas. It's not in the urban city only, but in the rural area, because the individual now in the market are now having preference to choose their content. They don't want to be fixed, especially with the age difference and the type of content they want to see. And that is changing the demand in the market. That has never been available before. It's been a lot of fixed demand, fixed content available. And this opens up the flexibility for the market. But for that, you need a connectivity. Fiber infrastructure is a crucial thing. But along with that, the right technology behind it to support the fiber backbone. And we see government is playing a very major, a huge role on this, rolling out the fiber infrastructure, supporting the market, building up the foundation behind it. And today we have around 110 million cable TV consumers and approximately 30 to 35 million OTT subscribers in India. That is growing, but if you see the number of broadband connection, it's around 20 million only, which means most of the consumers today is still watching on the mobile subscription, a huge amount of that, which is now creating issues, stability issues, because the bandwidth load. But it's moving, it's changing. We see the broadband subscription need is increasing, which is supported by the OTT requirements, but also supported by e-education, hospitality, services, etc. So we see an evolution going on now, which we see being a European company, which we faced already back in 5 years back. This is the same impact now happening in India, and it's going extremely fast, supported by the pandemic situation. And so we as a company want to support that. Obviously, we have set up a factory in India to support creating products in India for India with the R&D center. Having 20 years experience in Europe developing these products, we have now been in India for 8 years supporting the market with products and covering the most of the market from every corner, pan-India. And we see this is just a start. There is a long way to go, so there's a lot of work to do. That's from my side. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Paritosh. Damien, can you step in? Can you tell us more about your company and how you're part of the overall ecosystem?
Hi, everyone. So I'm Damien Sterkers. I'm working in solution marketing at Broadpeak. And basically, Broadpeak develops solutions to deliver the content to the end user. So that includes, of course, CDN streamers, origin packager for the processing of the video. We're also doing end-to-end analytics, ad insertion, and we've developed quite a few very specific, very unique features, advanced features for our delivery, including multicast ABR. That's a very strong product we have, and solutions like server-side, layer selection for the OTT process. So we're working both with content providers and with telcos. And I'd say today Broadpeak is a reference actor in that field. We're serving like over 100 customers all over the world. Our headquarters is in France, but we have offices in Asia, in Malaysia, and in the US, and of course a lot of representatives all over the world. And I would say that what we see today in the market is something very obvious. It's a huge growth in traffic. I mean, it's been mentioned before. Video is already the major part of the internet traffic, and as it was mentioned before as well, we got the surge of these OTT platforms, usually serving SVOD or VOD portals. And with the pandemic, that has created the first wave of traffic, for video. I think there's a second wave that is going to come, even bigger, and that very often goes overlooked, which is the progressive migration of all the broadcasts to streaming, right? So it's a progressive movement, but a very confirmed one. And when we look at it, everybody's very hype about the growth of Netflix or Disney. But the reality is that today, if you look not in terms of number of subscribers, but time is spent in front of a screen to watch a video, you still have 3/4 of it that comes from a regular broadcast, right? So basically, if we were to migrate all that is distributed in broadcast today to streaming, we would look at multiplying by 4 the average traffic of video on the network, right? And actually, probably in further questions we'll have time to elaborate, but probably much more than this, right? Because with broadcast you get peaks of traffic for live events. So I don't think people are really prepared for that. I think the movement will be quite fast. So traffic growth is, I think, the key, and is very much linked to the other issue that's probably one of the main issues for a video delivery, which is quality. You must ensure that people can watch your content in good conditions, and quality and traffic, they're linked, right? The last thing I would say is the ad insertion, right? I mean, people are trying to find ways to monetize their platform. And one obvious one is to sell commercials on it and take advantage of what have been developed on the web. So targeted ads, all the programmatic side of the ad distribution. So, well, this is our mission at Broadpeak, in particular in that context, really guarantee the best quality of experience for the end user while optimizing the resources that are available on the network. that was for my presentation.
Thanks, Damien. Thanks. Aloke, would you like to add?
Yeah. Hi, Uday, and everyone. I'm from Hoichoi.tv. So we are a Bengali OTT service from India, and we are specifically, catering, original content to Bengali audiences, globally, including some niche market like Bangladesh and Middle East and some parts of Europe and all. So we're pretty new. Like, we started this 3 years back, though our legacy of creating content goes back to 27 years, right? So we're a part of a group, which has, multiplexes, productions, distributions, filmmaking, and all. And obviously the Hoichoi, the OTT part, is the most the recent and newest one, because as a content creator, you always wanted to have a method to reach our audience directly, and OTT gives us that opportunity, right? And this is the best opportunity, I would say, right, where you can interact with your viewers directly, right? And obviously, by design, this whole activity is driven by technology, and we are always, we always try and strive to use modern technologies, the advantages of technologies, to have a better user experience.
Sounds good. Bharat, would you like to come in now?
Thanks a lot for having me. So I'm Bharat. I run this company called Sensara Technologies. We are a automated metadata generation platform for OTT. So we work with, we've had a good year or two. We work with Hotstar, we work with Airtel, and in fact, many more big league people in the pipeline. What we try to solve for them is in OTT, there's a bloodbath out there in terms of everyone's trying to seek for attention. And if you do not have good quality metadata, people are not going to click. People will start watching the video only if they find the poster attractive, right? And generating that poster is expensive. And we've come in there and where we analyze the entire video catalog for people, and we generate several types of poster options that even enables platforms to do personalized poster art, where old man watches different type of poster is shown, young person watches different types of posters are shown. So we automate the whole creation of metadata, which today is actually very expensive, and to even come up with these options so you can play these experiments on people to figure out what works is tremendously hard. So we start by taking off a cost function out of them by saying, hey, we'll reduce your cost by automating generation of metadata, cast, for example, or even features like X-ray, scene level retrieval, automated trailer generation, poster art mining, right, all this stuff. And then extend it to say, we'll give you several of these options so that people can play around with what option works best for their OTT systems. So we use a ton of AI, a lot of learning, machine learning, unsupervised learning. We even track emotions that a certain actor has. So we know this actor is now making a fiery face. On this other side, there is a laughing face, and so on. So several combinations of these are generated. So we are very excited about the whole domain. We've been tracking, we actually incidentally run the largest audience measurement system in India with more than 1 million homes. And we are clearly seeing how much traffic goes towards linear, how much is going towards OTT, and so on. So we want to use the power of metadata analytics to be able to help OTT players make better decisions on what they bring to market. That's us. We are very happy to be part of this forum, and it's really nice to see a diverse set of companies that are trying to cater to this industry as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It's really, your point is right. It's interesting to see the diversity of this panel. We've got people from satellite, from infrastructure, fiber products. We've got the whole space of company. We've got you who's doing some amazing work on the front end side, and who's running an OTT platform technology engine. So we've got a great mix, and I'd like to now have a conversation and try to understand today. Maybe we can start with Aloke on this and say, what kind of challenges are OTT platforms facing, and I'll like everybody to dive in. Obviously, we have almost 80-90% of customers today coming onto OTT platforms through mobile internet, through mobile broadband, and not so much through fiber connectivity. So, in this environment, how do you see the challenge of scale if we're going to double or 3x the number, or if Damien says 4x the size of the consumer base and consumption? Then what kind of challenges are we going to face, and how do you see what are the technologies that will come into play to solve some of these problems? Maybe Alok can start the conversation, and everybody else can jump in after that.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge that we see, right, in terms of scale and especially from the technology point of view, is the last mile, right? Specifically the market that we cater, like India, Bangladesh, where our main user base are there. So still people are, as you rightly said, right, people are on the mobile devices, right, using cellular connections, but that quality of service when it comes to last mile connectivity, right, doesn't help us much, because what we've seen so far, that most of the the problem from a user experience point of view, right, is basically coming from the last mile challenges, right, be it the app performances probably, or the streaming quality, or the kind of desired bitrate that people want to stream but they are not able to, right. This has a major impact on the kind of the user experience that we try to guarantee, right. And the other one would be more is specifically to, because most of our customers are on Android, right. So, and Android is a very fragmented ecosystem, right. So maintaining a global app, right, for all kind of manufacturers, OEMs coming from different Android versions, right, AOSP, right, the custom forked versions and everything. That is something that we it takes a lot of effort from our end to maintain the kind of user experience across all those devices, right. So this is, last mile, I know probably I can't control it, right. That's interdependent on different service providers, right. And obviously one of the obvious solution could be those ISP exchange services or DX services probably, which I think not much that popular in India, but still is we can look beyond traditional CDN services probably. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Alok. Amey, would you want to?
I'll quickly jump in there.
Yeah.
Sure. See, I think what Alok is referring to the last mile is essentially the tower connectivity. See, today you have in India around 800 million Indian users, and if you see the India market of around 5 lakh towers from where the mobile services are getting delivered to the end users, essentially only 25% of these towers are fiberized. See, today you're talking about delivering a 4G experience, a buffer less experience on video to a consumer. You don't have most of the towers fiberized. If you see some of the developed markets like Southeast Asia, you have 50% towers fiberized. In US and Europe, you have 70% towers fiberized. So I think a lot needs to be done in terms of improving the fiber infrastructure to the towers, so as to enable end consumers experience that services. So, and with in the next 1-2 years, you are going to see a lot of applications around VR, immersive applications. You're going to demand high quality video output. So essentially it is not just about the end users upgrading their smartphones, but it has to do a lot in terms of improving the fiber infrastructure, in terms of connecting those towers, and at the same time the quality of infrastructure also. India, as you see, traditionally the underground infrastructure is prone to cuts, outages, a lot of sabotage happening. So I think what we are trying to solve here is we're trying to give a superior connectivity to both the telecom companies and OTT providers, so that they solve the connectivity from their side, and from an end consumer perspective, we're trying to fiberize some of the large towers, so that at the end of the day, it's going to be a collective effort, and of course not one can solve this problem, because it's going to be a journey. And from 25%, if your government has set a target of connecting 50% towers in the next 3 years, so that also is going to be a long rope. So essentially, what Aloke was mentioning is in terms of the connectivity, which is the connectivity connecting those towers, and also if you see the broadband infrastructure at homes, the fiber to the home infrastructure, India is less than 10% in terms of penetration. So there also you have issues around right-of-ways, municipal corporation interference happening. We are as a country relying on traditional cable operators and MSOs, where there is a lot of nexus, which is which is creating a lot of bottlenecks in terms of giving the right infrastructure at homes. A lot has happened in some of the key cities and the metros, but if you talk about tier 2, tier 3 cities, we still have a long way to go. So as a country, if we can progress and deliver the right experience, I think the overall infrastructure to tower connectivity and connecting homes has to improve drastically.
So, Amey, one part of this is the tower infrastructure and making sure towers are fiberized, and obviously that 5 lakh towers. How do you make sure that happens? That's one part of the problem. The other part is obviously making sure that there is more and more data closer to the consumer. And how does one resolve that? Because obviously my experience has been most of our data centers are in larger cities, or our exchanges are in the larger cities. We don't have enough exchanges for the size of the country that we have. We don't have enough edge data centers or smallish data centers in each of these cities. The data flows up and down is unnecessary where it's not required.
That's correct. It creates lots of congestion on the core. So what you rightly touched upon is edge computing is coming up in a big way, and we see edge computing market to be a $20 billion market by 2025-2026. So what it essentially means is that a lot of these content providers are going to host content closer to consumers, so wherein the latency, the time required for accessing the content is going to reduce, and thereby the end user is going to get the right experience. So what we are doing is we're partnering with a lot of infrastructure operators in terms of providing them containerized data center solutions in tier 2, tier 3 cities, so that the content gets hosted and it doesn't have to travel to a Mumbai or a Delhi or a Bangalore, where the cloud resides at. So essentially that is also going to enable the right experience to the consumer.
So it's not only the last mile, it's also the back to these hubs, which probably needs to be expanded. Absolutely. So Hans, Damien, Paritosh, where does the infrastructure go? How do you solve this, and how do you do this very quickly? Are there any solutions out there that you think?
Yeah, I think looking a little bit, going back into history, looking in the India, how evolution has happened, looking in the cable industry. If you see now, cable is available in every corner of India. You can get a cable connection. You can get entertainment via cable. Same infrastructure model is successful in India. The small LCO partner, obviously it's not structured in unstructured model, but at least you're getting the service to the end consumer. Today, the most important thing is getting the service to the consumer. And then obviously second step is to improve the quality of service. But that is one step by step. Instead of going full flash, now we want to do the highest quality bandwidth to the consumer. That's not possible in such a scale. We're talking about a country of scale. And also, as Amey mentioned about the towers, yes, it's an important factor to get the broadband connections into handset, but that's one part of it. Handset is the radio interference, the radio interface, which has a limited bandwidth. We are talking about high bandwidth consumption platforms, and that will require connectivity up to the last mile into the homes, not only up to the area or to the villages or to the cities. We are talking about entering into the home. That is very crucial not only just to the OTT service. There are other services that are now mandatory nowadays. More and more work from home, more and more e-education, which means that complementing to the OTT service, which is obviously one of the major factor, you need to combine all these services, and it means that you suddenly end up with a high bandwidth need. I see how the bandwidth requirements being based in Europe now, how it's increasing. A generic demand now is 100 Mbps. Now it's moving to 1 gigabit per second. You cannot reach 1 gigabit per second in a 3G or 4G, not even in 5G, if you want to share the spectrum. So we are talking about dedicated lines, dedicated bandwidth. So we see that in our products also that we need to adapt to that. Yes, you can ensure the video get preference in the product when we do the technology and the software development on that side, but still the connectivity needs to get into the homes, and that's where the small operators reaching out to the villages, rural area is very important in the coming year.
If I may, with reference to the presentation I brought, so this is exactly what satellite is solving. It's solving the connectivity with badly connected towers for the time being. So awaiting a better terrestrial connection to all of the towers. If that some of the towers, it will never be economically feasible. But what the invite is that we do here the high bitrate, the popularity programs, that those are distributed to those towers, not only live but also file-based, and we can do that perfectly today. There is cellular backhaul networks today in India also available, so those can be perfectly used to reach those cellular towers, and both with live and file-based content. But the same platform can be expanded to put up even Wi-Fi hotspots in the rural areas, so that you can provide this quality of experience all the way to edge if necessary. Also with reference to traditional satellite, transporting very high bit rates to a consumer device at home has never been a problem, and we can transport 4K, even 8K over satellite. So there is definitely solutions where satellite can be at least temporarily of aid to increase the quality of experience for all customers, for all consumers across India. I'm not going to set off satellite against the fiber connection, and that will never happen. But temporarily, or to expand the footprint, or even to mitigate disasters, satellite may be a good solution, and it is already available today. It's not that satellite needs to be very expensive. It is bandwidth that is already today available in some cases that can be used to address this very specific topic.
If you allow me, I think it's, as I was saying, I think that's probably the main challenge to fix is really the amount of bitrate, the amount of capacity that video will require in the coming years, right? It's already enormous, but it's probably going to be multiplied. And I think that everything will be used, to bounce back on what Hans is saying. We'll need fiber, we'll need satellite on the top of it, and we'll need any kind of transmit what mean that we have available. And I think it's going to be true in any country. And, I'd say that there's a second part of it. One is the infrastructure, the other one is the optimization, right? You know that when you're doing streaming, it's like a web, so one-to-one connections. Everything is left at the initiative of the client, right? And right now it's jungle, right? I mean, you see smartphones, let's take Netflix, for example. You have Netflix on your smartphone. It's going to open 8 connections in parallel just to make sure it gets all the bandwidth that is available for the home, right? At the expense of the rest of the devices in your home, right? So that just doesn't make sense. So optimization in the network is mandatory as well. And we'll have to optimize every single bit of our distribution. And the technology Hans is talking about, this way of bringing the content right into the home of the people. So this works very well in satellite. You can also use it as the IP multicast on the network. This is what we refer to as multicast APR. The game, one of the games is to bring the content as close as possible to the end user, right? And in particular, the most popular content. When you're using this multicast or broadcast pipes, and I think that's something very important because a lot of people are seeing streaming only being HTTP. It's not the case, right? The thing is, the idea is to try to use the pipes that are already working and broadcasting working great for that, you can push the content very close to the end user. And this way, they can have better video quality without constraint on the network. So, again, infrastructure is one thing that is very important. Optimization is another thing. And we're really at step one today, right? I mean, there's much more that can be done from the delivery side.
Great. So now stepping back a little, trying to look at a larger picture. I'm trying to say there are 3-4 big players in this entire space. One is obviously, one end is the consumer, and then there is the telco who delivers the last mile to the consumer, and then you've got the data center companies, you've got the last mile, you've got the various infrastructure providers, and you've got the cable companies, and you've got the satellite guys, and all these guys are providing backhaul services, content hosting services, and then you've got the front end of it, which is delivery to the consumer and the last mile, and then there are the OTT players. I'm trying to look at these 3-4 segments and say, over the next 3 to 4 years, let's look forward and say, where do you think the OTT guys or the OTT platforms need to invest to give a better consumer experience? Where do the telcos and the last mile providers need to invest to give a good experience to the consumers? It can't only be pipes. It has to be more than just pipes. And where does the infrastructure guy, which is the data center owners or the fiber owners or the long haul owners, where do they need to invest in all of this over the next 3 to 4 years to look at 10x increase in capacity of traffic, in terms of number of users, in terms of number of subscribers, in terms of expectation of the consumer also moving up, because consumers in the last 5 years have their expectations moved up. Now they want broadcast quality content, they want broadcast quality sports. So as a result, what are the things that you think, 2-3 things that you think each one of you that needs to be the key investment portfolio for each of these players separately? Amey, you want to dive in?
Yeah, so I think a very, very right question. I think essentially what you're referring to is what's the next step, and what we are saying is in the next couple of quarters you will see 5G coming up our way, and maybe by early 2022 you'll have the auctions and telecom operators are going to deep dive into that. So 5G delivers 100 times better speed than a 4G. So from an infrastructure standpoint, telcos will have to upgrade their backhauls, upgrade their spectrum capacity to be able to offer the gaming experience and the immersive VR experience to end consumers. So that's one clear area where I see operators beefing up their capacities, and also we are seeing a lot of action there in terms of making the infrastructure ready, in terms of creating smaller base stations, creating within the city. Because when you say 5G coming in, 5G is not going to be in rural area. In intra-city metro environment, you will find a lot of small cells coming in, and they're going to invest a lot in terms of fiberizing this small cells. So to be able to, of course, give the end user the right experience. So that's from the telco side. From the data center side, we are seeing that a lot of real estate companies jumping into the data center bandwagon. Today, if you see the data center industry in India, and you have we need 10 to 15 times more data centers, because there's exponential growth of data. You have not just the OTT, you have IoT, the entire smart city ecosystem developing. So data centers also are the need of the day in terms of upgrading their infrastructure. And we are seeing a lot of initiatives in terms of they being able to serve the digital transformation sought by OTTs and large enterprise players. So data centers are also evolving. And what is happening is, as I was mentioning in my previous session, that in terms of getting content closer to the consumers, you're finding a lot of offtake from smaller players, smaller regional players. Because if you see 60% of the incremental traffic from Netflix and YouTube in the last 12 months post-pandemic has come from tier 3, tier 4 towns. And the consumer is ready to pay for the services. but essentially looking at the right experience. And so what we are finding is tier 2, tier 3 towns, we need to host that content so as to able to offer these services faster to the consumer. So that's what we see as a clear way forward from data center operators and telcos.
Right. Very interesting. Yeah. Aloke, Tosh, you want to jump in? Damien, Hans, Bharat, anybody, where do you see this investment cycle going in? I know a lot of people think that the front end experience for the consumer, the way the consumer consumes, and maybe Bharat wants to jump in and tell us what's happening on the front end side and the consumer experience side, and what do you see as the next 3-4 years vision? Where will OTT platforms invest?
Thank you. So at a high level, right, there's a key business equation that OTT platforms need to solve. One is there is a cost to content. Everybody would love to have an IPL with them, but it's just that it's so damn expensive, right? And there's only so much that IPL can get. The per subscription price cannot be jacked up. So this user is still going to pay only 100 rupees for the entire season, right? So there's only so much that you can make out of a subscriber, because largely you're looking at a subscription-based economy, which is what is driving the premium part of OTT. But premium content is very, very expensive. So there's a key business equation that people need to solve, which is the cost of content, the cost of delivery, right? So it's hugely expensive to ensure that there's a seamless delivery to people. And there's only so much money that you can make from. So what is happening here is there's a money ball at play, right? There's a huge money ball game that is at play, where people are investing a lot of money into originals, using originals to attract people into the platform, but they use the torso and tail. And when I say torso and tail, which is a slightly cheaper kind of content, use them to keep them engaged and prevent these consumers to churn out. Right? So almost the success of every OTT player is going to be determined by if they can solve this money ball. Can they acquire content at a cheaper price, present it in a manner that actually makes people watch a lot more? So this is really like you're trying to give discount on one product, people enter in, but then you're trying to make them consume a lot more things. So here we see the importance of better recommendations, better quality metadata. You have to present the torso and tail of content in a much better way. The packaging has to be so much better so the people kind of start watching this, right? The most videos that most platforms have, maybe Aloke can also tell me this because he will be tracking analytics. Most videos are hardly even clicked upon. People come, watch the original and then go away. Like, how do you get people to continue to do this? So I think that there's a lot of learning across platforms that everybody has. And we are told this as a come and solve this for us from a metadata perspective, come and solve this from an analytics perspective. So I see that there's a lot of learning that's going to be happening on how to get this equation right? Today or until today, everyone was like, let me just spend money, I'll get my content for free, or somebody's investing into this. But the people are asking the hard business questions. Is it making sense? Are you able to get ROI in terms of all the costs, right? So I think that's a key question. And if AI can help there, right, that's what we need to go and kind of solve, right? So that's the key thing. And if AI can help, so be it, right? So we see a better adoption. People are more inviting to try out these platforms.
Thanks. Hello. Are you seeing any difference in the way consumers are getting experiences in rural India versus urban centers? Is the time spent more coming from not gross but per customer time spent coming more from urban India? Is rural India still struggling? Which is one point. The other point is, what Bharat is making in terms of is consumption really the head of your content, or are you able to open up the torso and the tail to them? And how are you, exposing your entire content library? How are you personalizing this experience to users, and people talk about mass personalization and how AI and ML can help doing that. Open up some thoughts for us. Where are you investing in the next few years? Where are you going to plan to put the money in?
Yeah. So, I mean, things will be different with us, right? Because, we are completely subscription, whereas bought, right? We don't have free, we don't have trial, we never had. So, for us is, as a, like a content creator, right? So we create our own content, right? We don't acquire, we don't syndicate. So, this whole, thing comes from a simple principle, that we will make, like a good content, and for that, you need to pay. So there is no other option, right? So we ensure that that our platform should have great content, and that is why we usually directly like produce them and we create them, right? Instead of acquiring, or when I'm talking about more about the originals, right? We do acquire movies, right? We even create movies specifically made for our platforms, right? Even in spite of we are having in the business of distributions, movie making, and multiplexes, we do have released movies exclusively on on Hoichoi. So yeah, obviously the most of the things the investment goes into the production, right, for good content, because for a small platform, right, the content has to be like a top notch, right? This is one. Secondly, like we have seen that that the consumption from the rural areas, right, or the areas that we didn't anticipate it earlier, right, that there will be a little bit of consumption will be there, but those areas are coming up into the entire heat map nowadays, right? But yes, there are a couple of areas of like concerns that we have. One is obviously from a business point of view, where being a SWOT platform, right, we don't have a subscription friendly payment ecosystem as of today, right? So that is one of the biggest challenge from the business point of view, right? Because as Bharat was Bharat was mentioning, right, for the churn, we have to go back to the customer, right, in every cycle, and try to resubscribe him, right? There's a retargeting, resubscribe. There's a cost always, right? Even to retain a customer who is not on a recurring payment, right? Right, that cost is comes the cost of acquisitions actually comes in every cycle, renewal cycles. So that is one like a business challenge that we have, because if we have a subscription friendly payment ecosystem, probably that would help us to retain those customers, right? That is one. Secondly is in terms of experience point of view, we do use AI, right? We use AI specifically for encoding services, right? Not much on personalization, right? We're still, the creative teams is still a bit reluctant to use AI for, for recommendation and so on. But definitely, we use AI for encoding, right? We try to, decide that which frames needs to be stay, where we can remove little bit of bit rates, right? Depending on the type of content, right, or type of frame. Right. For example, say if we have a, for a frame, if the 80% is a blue sky, probably for a frame, right? Right. Using the AI, we remove most of the pixels from the blue, right? So it gives us, opportunity to reduce the file size and all, but still, maintaining that, visual, experience intact. We do use, AI in product analytics, not fully, in some extent, right? Where we try to, we capture the user journeys on a platform, right? And try to have more insights, right? Using, certain AI ML, kind of a stuff, right? Which is very, I would say, it's very early stage that way. But in future, the major, the focus would be on the delivery side for us, right? We started that. Obviously, we are aware of the possibilities of 5Gs and everything, but honestly, we are we are talking about the 5G since last couple of years, right? That this will arrive and all. But we are aware of that, right? We have a certain level of primary readiness for that as well, but nothing in the immediate time, what we have done in terms of delivery, that we have partnered with ISPs, right, in rural areas or tier 2, tier 3 cities or district towns, and we have put our own small edge boxes over there, right? It's a kind of a small like a caching box, right, where we store the most popular content, right, that we serve over the HTTPS and we cache them over there, and it gets delivered within that network.
Okay. And that is over and above what you do with the CDN providers.
Yeah. So that is over and above CDN, because that layer is still not mature, right? Because most of the ISPs has no idea what you're talking about, right? And most of them doesn't have the infrastructure to have those kind of boxes, right? So sometimes it may happen that it happens that we do build a certain level of infra with them, right?
So today, are you saying you're not using too much of CDN, you're using more edge boxes at ISPs?
No. The CDN consumption is more, obviously, right?
Yeah.
It's all about say for example in some remote areas in West Bengal, right, where we do see that there are some issues with the deliveries, or we are having some flags on the QoS matrices and all. Then we talk with those ISPs, right? Probably say one ISP is giving us a substantial number of hits from a certain district, right? And we still see that QoS data is not that great. So we do we go by like a case-to-case basis and try to solve that.
Super. Damien, Hans, anything that you want to add?
I want to
see the next 3-4 years investment coming in.
Yeah, I wanted to react to what Aloke was saying. I think it's extremely important, and to summarize all this, where people should invest for quality and to manage the surge of traffic. I think the first thing to think about is collaboration. I think they should invest in more talking to each other. I see that today, basically, when you're trying to put a content online, a lot of people are just stopping at I'm going to put my content through Akamai, and very often that's not enough. That's not enough because you're missing the last mile, for example, that was mentioned before. So I think that the ISPs they've done quite some optimization for their own content. Now we see that they don't have the exclusivity at all, right, of that. So there's much more content that is available on the internet, and they should find a way to make all the optimization they've done on their network available to these actors, right? And it's their role, I think, in the upcoming wave of transformation of the video distribution, to really make sure that their network is fit for the quantity of video that people want to use, and to make sure that their infrastructure in their complexity is available to everyone, right? Because that's the essence of the internet. So that's and Aloke, you were talking about it. Ability to cache closer to the end user, the content is very important, and we've seen that because this collaboration was not really existing today. You had Netflix putting some, these OCA boxes, Open Connect. You got Amazon figuring out, these outpost kind of distribution. It's interesting way, but to me that's the role of the ISP to provide that. And the thing is, in what the ISP should do, I think there are different directions that they should be looking at. We've mentioned one. We want to do broadcast quality, right? Basically, what we're targeting is broadcast quality. One of the reasons is that a lot of the broadcast content today will be streamed tomorrow, and the question is, it's nice to have a VOD asset available, to everyone, but how about streaming to everyone a World Cup final of cricket, for example, right? That's a different story, right? So how do you manage that on the networks? So you want broadcast quality? Well, let's use the tricks of the broadcast, right? So let's use the broadcast pipes, and Satellite, Hans was talking about it, is one of these pipes using multicast like it's done in regular IPTV, in many places. So that's one thing. Regarding the CDN distribution, I think that's one angle that's very important is dynamicity, right? When Netflix is putting some boxes, right, it's static. It's not very convenient. At the era of the cloud, everything can be orchestrated. A cache is no longer a box. It can be a container, right? So it should be possible to move around the CDN shape depending on the audience, right? I think another point is control, right? Right now, in the ISP, like I was saying, everything is at the initiative of the player. It's not normal, right? Right now, it's like I was saying, it's the Far West, right? And this is not a way to optimize. So control from the ISP, and that was mentioned by Bharat, and I think that's very important. Or the analytics, right? I mean, we're on an IP distribution. We have ways to get feedback, right? And the more we want something dynamic and optimized, the more we need this data to come back, right? This is true from the user experience, but this is true also for distribution, right? And when I'm talking about analytics, we have powerful tools now like A/B testing, so you can judge different scenario live. The idea is really to use that data to, in real time, optimize the delivery. And I think that's very important. And then a lot of people are talking about artificial intelligence. In my opinion, there's much to do before talking about artificial intelligence, but I'm sure AI has a role to play, right? So this would be preparing that. If you want artificial intelligence, you need first to gather the proper data and start knowing what to do with it, right? So, that's I think where the investment should go.
I think everything has been said, so I agree in large terms with what Damien said. So I think it's about doing the right investment, so the quality of experience gets to the same as people are used to for broadcast quality, not just for VOD, but definitely for live events. And I do believe that it's about collaboration as well. So we have large history in both video, but also data with ISPs, and it's about collaboration. It's about combining expertise or bringing expertise from one group to the other, so that we can improve the quality of experience. I also believe in a finer granularity of the CDNs, so that you can actually provide this. And then I come back to my satellite story, which is perfectly possible until, of course, fiber and other terrestrial means reach all of those transmission points.
Paritosh, you want to add? Where do you see the investment coming over the next 3 to 4 years? You're obviously setting up a factory in India. What do you see as the demand?
I see it's quite clear it's coverage all over. We're talking about a lot about pipe. Pipe is one part of it, but there are other areas also from technology point of view. As mentioned, building up cloud solutions, AI, bringing in the technology into the picture. All this will play the whole ecosystem together, because blowing up a pipe will not help immediately to solve everything, and it will not go so fast, which means that you need to utilize whatever available, the spectrum available in terms of bandwidth, and then bring technology, first of all, the cashier point closer to the user, and that's something that AI can play a role. See which areas are emerging now, which markets in a country like where things are exploding, consumers are tying up fast, but there are pinpoints to find out the right locations where to put the local caches and build up the distance to the consumer. That's one part of it. Second part is to analyze the data, and also we see the platform demand is increasing, which means the services are increasing. Slowly live streaming is coming into the picture, which means the application is getting heavier. Their cloud plays a major role. That things needs to be offloaded from the consumer, because they will not have the latest devices. They need to have something which is enabled to stream. Even if the service capabilities are increasing, the service scope is increasing, because you want to attract the consumer. The more consumers are attracted, the more service you can deliver. But that doesn't mean that you can force the consumer to buy the latest devices. So it means that you need to offload the end user devices in terms of home and mobile application also. So that's where I see that they will need to build up offloading solutions to not put the demand on consumer, put the demand on the network itself.
Sounds good. I think overall it looks like everybody will need to look at enhancement of capacity. And one of the things that is coming very quickly at us, which will force everybody to increase the capacity, is probably 5G. And as a consumer, it's very exciting to see how 5G will impact our lives. And it's not a very far off thing now. 5G is now almost here and now, and obviously some markets in Europe and US have already, and even Southeast Asia has started with 5G. So I'd like the panelists now tell us how will 5G, and opening up of 5G impact the OTT ecosystem, and how do the OTT platforms and the players in this entire ecosystem prepare themselves better for this entire upcoming surge in demand that's going to come as a result of 5G. Amey, you want to start there?
So essentially, Uday, what we are seeing is with 5G coming in, I think video on demand, streaming, and other immersive applications where people will benefit. And I think actual commercial deployments of 5G will probably start in Q2, Q3 of FY22, wherein you will actually see operators be able to offer actual 5G services. And this is largely confined to urban markets. So I think with the need for gaming, immersive VR based applications, and where we find 4K, 8K kind of videos being in demand, that's where we'll see the actual offtake of 5G, and that's how enterprise and even commercial retail use cases are going to get unleashed. So it's essentially going to be enabling high quality video content onto our devices and smartphones.
So what will happen is, I'm assuming, and I'm playing it out for the future, that one, there are 400, 350 million people who are right now on digital video and OTT, whether it is audio OTT or video OTT or gaming in some way. That ecosystem will probably bring in more users, and the existing users are probably going to see a far better experience, or will expect a far better experience. Now, we know that's probably going to happen. Both quantity and numbers are going to go up, and quality is going to be, expectations are going to be better. Now, what do we need to do to manage it? Because obviously that then creates last mile problems. It creates, more problems for Aloke, because he's got to handle more applications and even more bit rates, because right now he's probably doing 7-8 bit rates. I'll have to do probably 20 bit rates, because the bit rates can go all over the place, and you've got old applications, new applications, and the ISPs are going to be talking a different language, and the mobile operators are going to be talking different language. So where do we need to be prepared? How do we need to invest correctly to be ready for 5G?
If you ask me a very frank question, that do you need 5G as of now, the answer is no, because you haven't seen the actual commercial full monetization of 4G LTE advanced technology. Because unless and until you have the challenges resolved at the last mile and to be able to deliver the content to the consumer, today even the 4G is capable enough to deliver that. But unfortunately, in India, in terms of the actual end user experience, we have probably getting just 6 to 7 Mbps download speeds vis-a-vis the global benchmark of 20 Mbps on 4G. So I think a lot needs to be done by the operators on the infrastructure side, in terms of beefing up their backhauls and beefing up their tower connections on fiber, etc. Because not just 5G is going to solve the problems for all. 5G is only going to enhance the capability in terms of delivering advanced applications around virtual reality and gaming. But as of today, what we find is even normal applications of OTT and all, people are not able to get the right experience. And I think that's where operators need to invest and create. And I think we're finding a lot of operators doing that. And we are talking to all the telcos today in the country, and they're deploying software-defined networks. Their cloudification networks is also a big area where they're working on. So that's an area where operators already started beefing up, and they already know that 5G is tearing. And a year from now, you will find 5G coming in, and actual deployments maybe will take a quarter or two more. But in the next 6 to 8 months, I think they'll have to create a lot of emphasis on improving the quality of infrastructure, both on the core, on the edge, on the backhauls, to be able to offer that experience to consumers. Because ultimately, the end user experience is going to be a differentiator of services.
I wanted to
Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in. There are two other angles to 5G that we are very optimistic about. One is 5G is not so much just about consumption. It's also about production, because higher bandwidth pipes and the ability to upload video is actually going to make a huge difference, because suddenly we'll have a lot more people creating content, especially live streams. You can think of every temple starting off a stream for itself from places. Especially we are seeing a huge uptick on this. This is one aspect. So there'll be a lot more content that's available, reality content that people can, like there could be a street show that's happening, suddenly gets uploaded on 5G, and this can go viral. So there'll be a lot of focus around OTT from real places, reality events that is going to come up, and that's a big driver for 5G. The other aspect is 5G broadcast, wherein a lot of the terrestrial bandwidth, which was generally restricted for DVB-T2, is now coming inside the 5G, the gamut of 5G itself. And we are actually aware of certain ways by which there's a 5G chipset allows for that bandwidth also to be used up. So an OTT service has the option of starting to use terrestrial bandwidth for their high-profile live events, and thereby reduce latency of consumption. So these are like two angles that we are very excited about as well there.
Very interesting. This terrestrial thing is very interesting. Damien, in terms of enhance any experiences from other markets outside India as to what happens once 5G comes in terms of the entertainment experiences? What is the consumer behavior? How does that change? And therefore, how do platforms and players in India need to be prepared better? Any insights?
On my side, I would say that, it might be different in India, right? But in many countries that we're serving, mobile network hasn't really taken its spot yet in video distribution, I would say. And I know that there are a lot of innovations in India, specifically you have a lot of distribution of video over LTE networks, right? But that's a bit of a specificity, I would say. I think that 5G would be the enabler, right? So we're talking about quality of experience. With 5G, we have more chances to have a quality of experience that is good enough to generalize this use, in the spirit of telcos, as a way really to distribute television. Right? And if you ask me, what's very interesting about 5G is we're talking about radio segment, which is much easier than wiring every single person, in particular if you're going in rural areas. That's interesting. It's been mentioned, this shift a bit from the frequencies of the terrestrial, let's say the legacy terrestrial one way, to 5G. Maybe there's something that's very much used in the world is this terrestrial, for national programs and all that. To what extent 5G could take care of that? Technology-wise, I think it would make sense. It's more evolved, it's mobile, it's two ways. So why not? So I think that there's something very interesting about 5G getting really in the game of video distribution. That's my take. But we're still at the beginning of it, I think.
Don't think we have the big experience yet for 5G being used for video distribution. 5G is about lower latency, higher throughput and virtualization, and then you think of AR and VR and 4K and 8K. Yeah, those AR and VR will require more edge computing, but that is not necessarily what is industry today. Another advantage is going to be hybrid media distribution. So 5G is also about orchestration and ability to use both terrestrial and satellite infrastructure, depending on what you have on latency, on cost, throughput, and all the availability requirements. So we are looking forward to also be part of that 5G distribution of satellite, working on making sure that the standards are set correctly at DVB. That's all.
Paritosh, anything to add? Yeah.
I can just add here. I myself have 5G in my mobile now because I'm living in Sweden, and this 5G has been rolled out in the last 4 months now. And the services majorly been used for 5G is IoT services due to the latency. But that's a different environment, different position. But looking into India market, tier 1 cities is the one who will experience 5G speed in initial stage, and they're already having the broadband connectivity available there. So I don't see that the big demand will be on availability on helping the OTT platform. Yes, on streaming live events, that will help because of the latency, that you will be able to see streaming live events on mobile devices or when you are out and running around outfield. That's where you see the impact. But looking at the mass scale, consumer scale, yes, there will be a consumer base who didn't have possibility to access before, now getting the access possibility, but that would not scale up the OTT demand. So still there will be a need of infrastructure in terms of other technologies. So this is just a supplementing thing, which will help also, because once you start deploying 5G, you will need to start deploying infrastructure, which is fiber-based. So these two technologies will support each other to reach out to different levels. So it's complementing, and it will push it forward in a faster speed.
Wow, I need to temper down my expectations on 5G. So, I now wanted each one of you to probably, fast forward and put down or share with everybody, what do you think are the 2-3 challenges that real challenges that are going to emerge in the years ahead for this entire ecosystem? We know capacity is one challenge. What other challenges are going to emerge? Obviously, there's one challenge of security. So many devices, so many people, logging in, data, the storage of data and maintaining data. I think privacy is becoming an issue. There are lots of these issues coming up. Where do you see these challenges for the entire ecosystem coming up in the next few years, other than just capacity? Damien, you want to start off?
Yes. Well, it's a tough question because you say beyond capacity, and I really think capacity will be the first thing to handle. I think, and maybe I'm not the most the best person to talk about it, but I think that there's questions about profitability of streaming, right? I mean, everybody has a sense that this is the future of the video, right? And people are ready to invest a lot for that. And a lot of the subscriptions we can get from platforms today are pretty cheap. And usually these platforms are ready to lose money at the beginning. So I think that, there is a point of balance that will need to be found there, and probably add insertion as something to play in that game, right? So I think that's one aspect. I think another one is, I was talking, it's linked to load, but, with this load and quality issue that they're a bit linked actually in streaming, there's a matter of complexity, the complexity of the distribution. It's going to get very complex. And it was mentioned before, up to now, I think we went through a phase where we wanted the content to be to arrive on the devices, right? And we're happy with that. Right? I think the coming years, that's not going to be as simple, right? It's going to be extremely complicated. So, this is why I was talking about collaboration, automatization, dynamicity, rely on analytics, all this complexity will be built. And one of the key is, how do we manage that complexity? So I think that's another important point. And 5G is part of it as well, right? Mobile will take more role. 5G by itself is different challenges, right? You have this very interesting concept of MEC, where you're putting the processing further in the network. So there are many adaptations that we need to work on, that we started working on, to optimize also what is a radio segment as opposed to a wired segment, right? So, this is what comes to my mind. I mean, we have a lot of things to think about. I'm not worried about us getting bored in the coming month.
Interesting. Aloke, so there's more complexity coming your way. You saw this was complex. There's more coming your way. Bharat, you are the guy who solves complexities and makes life easy for people. Yes, where do you see the big challenges on the technology front going forward? You obviously given it a lot more thought. We are more the here and now people.
I think the way the broadcast industry used to work was, it was very clear that there's a broadcaster and then there's an operator, and it's the operator's job to collect the money from the end customer, and then he distributes it back to the broadcaster. Right now, it's all gotten confused with the OTT player saying, "Hey, I'll go directly." Some of them have succeeded, but a lot of them are actually struggling, and now they're going back to the operator, who by now is called by a different name. He's now called a super aggregator, and then it's the super aggregator's job to actually collect the money. And very clearly, we are seeing a new form called as price bundling. So this is the last year that has happened, where a lot of these ISPs, Aloke may actually know, and some of them have contacted him too. They are saying, "I'll give you one plan, pay me 250 rupees, you'll get all these apps for free," right? So, and then they figure out what is that plan together, and so on. So we've been asked how to help solve all of these things. So we are trying to figure out, are there early risers in a certain geography? Like in deep Telangana, there is an interesting app that is coming up, and we kind of use analytics to figure out that there's a lot of loyalty towards this app, and we leak this information to the operator, who then makes a direct call and say, "Hey, come on board my platform, and I'll do a bulk license with you." So I think if you see this is all data-driven strategy, data-driven transformation, and it is exciting from the aspect of the very, very fast feedback cycles. Things are changing very fast. But like Aloke said, how you collect money is the key problem that needs to be solved. And probably the role of the super aggregator becomes way more important, the Tata Skies and the Airtels and the Geos, because they already have a way to collect money back. And given this experience, we are noticing that a lot of ISPs, and this is probably also relevant from a convergence perspective, we are seeing a ton of ISPs actually trying to get into the price bundling game. Right? I think as all of us as technology providers, we need to enable this, and ultimately we will succeed only if the business succeeds, right? So, and the whole ecosystem should actually be way more profitable. I think the next 2 years are very crucial, that we need to have a very positive equation on this. Only then the money is going to flow and all of us will get rich. Right now, everyone's just burning. Right. So we are very cautious from that perspective, that there's a ton of burn. People are conscious of costs. But we need to solve this equation for people, right? And the best that that's useful. So.
Very interesting, and you put it very beautifully about that. We need to solve the money collection issue, and with everybody wanting to go to the consumer, I don't think the consumer is very clear as to who I need to pay and what will I get. The telcos asking for money, the ISPs asking for money. And there are intermediaries who are asking for money. There are people who are now super apps who are asking for money. And the content creator is confused where I need to put my content, because some places free, some places bundled, somebody is paid, somebody is a walled garden, somebody has got all sorts of various models. But Aloke has content everywhere, but the consumer is confused where he needs to take the content from. It's becoming confusing for the consumer also, and I am speaking from a consumer point of view, saying this can get confusing. I've run an OTT app for 5-6 years, and I know how confusing this can get when you want out to more users through partners. But each partner has his own model, and each one wants to collect the money. So yes, we are getting into a complex scenario. I just want one quick last minute. We just have 2 minutes left. If anybody wants to give any closing inputs, obviously this sounds like a very exciting space. There is lots to do over the next 3-4 years. There are also lots of challenges, and obviously there's an overhang of profitability in all of this. I just want to open up the conversation to say, is there any one quick 10 seconds, 20 seconds that you want to add before we shut down? Amey, you want to start off?
So thanks. I think the opportunity was great. I think all my fellow panelists have touched upon all pertinent points required to ensure the actual success of the industry, not just sustain it, but scale this for the OTT ecosystem as a whole. I think very interesting points, and I think we are pretty much excited on the infrastructure side, because what we are seeing, we're working with the Googles of the world, Facebooks of the world, Netflixes of the world, and I think they are ready to partner. They are wanting to pull in money. They want to work on cost plus models. So as we are saying that how is the end consumer going to pay? They're also trying to facilitate some of the models in terms of creating those partnerships with telcos. So that's an interesting area we are seeing in India, and we are excited to latch on this opportunity and enable this industry. That's from my side.
Aloke, anything from your side?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of possibilities and areas where we can work on that we can improve. Right? Which probably in India we've just started it. Right? So, we're good on the infrastructure part. Right?
So thank you very much for being on this panel. We've got an amazing piece. We've got lots of talking points. Thank you for all the points you've made. This looks like a very, very exciting space, and a lot of work needs to be done. Obviously, a lot of work has been done in the last 6-7 years, and we have miles to go. This will be a fairly large ecosystem, and I wish everybody in this panel all the best as this entire ecosystem opens up. Thank you very much for a very, very interesting conversation. Jared.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.